In today's lesson, we're going to cover 5 things you can start doing today to immediately improve as a musician. These are 5 things I work on every day, and if you implement these into your life, I promise you'll become a more focused and well-rounded musician. My name is Jack Ruch. Welcome to my channel. Let's get into it. So listening to music to improve as a musician might seem a little bit too obvious, but there's a big difference between just having music on when you're in the car or around the house and really sitting down with the sole intention of just listening to a piece of music. This is something I did a ton as a kid growing up. I would spend entire afternoons after school with headphones on, just listening to one album over and over and over again. And there's so much to be gained from deeply listening to a piece of music, not just for enjoyment, but analyzing details about the harmony, the phrasing, the tones, literally any and all aspects of the music you want to focus on. You'll be really surprised how many little nuances you can pick up about touch, feel, phrasing from just deeply listening to a player. Now, critical listening is an incredibly important step for wrapping your head around more complex or unfamiliar music. Sometimes great music is an acquired taste. I've had a lot of light switch moments in my life where just by listening to an album over and over again, suddenly it clicks into place and I fall in love with something that maybe didn't resonate with me on first listen. This has certainly been the case with me with a lot of jazz records. So I highly recommend getting a good pair of headphones and picking one album or even one song and finding a nice quiet time in the day to do some critical listening. And listen to the music over and over again. The more you get inside the music, the more it becomes a part of the way you hear and feel music yourself. So this is another one that might seem obvious, but just like there's differences in the way we listen to music, there's differences in learning too. It's one thing to just learn a song enough to get through it, and another thing to learn a song so that you really know it inside and out. Oftentimes, as guitar players, we just focus on the guitar parts. But it's important to understand what else is happening in the song, both rhythmically and harmonically, to understand the context. And this is particularly important when it comes to transcribing. Without a doubt, the best thing you can do to improve as a musician is to transcribe things like songs, parts, and solos by ear. This is going to help you build your vocabulary. But it's not enough to just learn a part or a lick. You have to understand the context of how it's being used. Take the time to break things down and analyze them so you can get the most out of it. So this is one that might be a little bit more difficult for some because it's not something we can do on our own. But in my experience, there's so much to be gained from surrounding yourself with people that are great in your field. And the pressure and challenge that comes from having to step up to the plate in the heat of battle is something that there's really no substitute for. Playing music in an ensemble requires a certain amount of trust and accountability. Other musicians are going to be listening to you and expecting you to hold up your end of the music. And you have to have your ears open to them too. So respect your fellow musicians by being present and having your ears open, and willingly put yourself into challenging situations with a healthy amount of pressure. These kind of experiences will improve your ability to react and respond in real time and allow you to be more loose and relaxed when you play. Also, there's so many little nuggets of wisdom that can be gained from just hanging out with and hearing other great players. Now Now, this is something I talk about a lot in my lessons, but to be honest with you, it's much lower on my list than the previous topics. I played guitar for years semi-professionally in bands growing up without any real formal training and no fundamental knowledge of theory or things like scales or arpeggios or anything like that. But because I listened to a lot of music, I learned a lot of things by ear off of records, and I constantly hung out with musicians that were better than me, that challenged me, I was able to get something going. The only problem with this is eventually you're going to hit a wall. And this is where having a basic knowledge of music theory and a basic system for breaking things down on the fretboard really comes in handy. Harmony and theory knowledge is going to help you really understand what's going on in the things that you're playing so that you can take them and expand on them and use them in a variety of different situations. And learning the fretboard with a system like the Cage system or learning your triads or anything like that is going to allow you to fill in all the gaps that can be left behind by just learning licks and parts off of records. So if you're like me, you probably have a wide range of music that you really enjoy. And sometimes it can be difficult to figure out which direction you want to go down. We all wish we could be super versatile and cover any genre, but we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Now, it's always a good idea to work to improve those weaknesses, but you also can't forget to just lean into your strengths. This is where you're going to find your own voice, right? We're all unique individuals, and certain things are going to feel better and more natural for you than for me, and vice versa. So you have to figure out what those things are and double down on them. Figure out that thing that makes you different from everyone else and milk it for all it's worth. This is the one point on this list I'm constantly reminding myself to do, and you should too.